right now there is a ground stop on our airport.
For about a week from January 28th to February 4th, a Chinese high-altitude weather test balloon was perhaps the most watched object on the planet. The US made a big show of shooting down the balloon. The incident soon snowballed into a diplomatic crisis, with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken postponing his visit to China. Here's Professor Zhechun Zhu of the Bucknell University in Pennsylvania sharing with us his take on this whirlwind. In your opinion, does the balloon crisis represent a major escalation, or is it simply a minor incident blown out of proportion? It's been a month since. How have both sides handled the incident so far?
I think the balloon incident shows how delicate and fragile the US-China relationship is. Well, I think initially the two governments tried to downplay the balloon incident. Unfortunately, this relatively minor incident has been turned into a crisis in a bilateral relationship. In the United States, for example, some members of Congress and media will simply not let it go. They started to attack China for threatening US security, and they also attacked President Biden for not shooting down the balloon sooner. Meanwhile, in China, the foreign ministry started to accuse the United States of frequently spying on China, including with surveillance balloons. So due to domestic pressures, the war of words escalated between the two sides.
The postponement of Blinken's China visit was one of the key fallouts of the balloon incident. Has it closed the window of dialogue and reconciliation between the two sides forever?
I think the communication channels are still open. Secretary of State Blinken only postponed the trip to Beijing. He did not actually cancel it. And as soon as conditions are right, he will visit Beijing. And Blinken did meet with Wang Yi in Munich recently, which is a sign that the two governments have been communicating with each other. In addition, economic and finance officials from both countries are talking to each other now. And the embassies in each other's capital are also in frequent contact with their host government. I think the communication channels are open. They are talking to each other, which is good. Hopefully, they will be able to restore the relationship.
It is well known that the US carries out international surveillance ops routinely against adversaries and even allies. Is the US truly in a position to lecture other countries on spying of all things? And can it take a moral high ground?
I think the core of the issue here is not who can take a moral high ground. I think the core of the issue here is how and whether the two powers can manage their relationship. The balloon incident shows how difficult it is to manage this relationship. I think the balloon incident actually will unfortunately become a contentious issue in US domestic politics, especially as the US presidential campaign starts soon. I can guess, all these presidential candidates will certainly attack each other and compete on who is tougher on China. So the priority is for the two sides to tone down their rhetoric and focus on managing this difficult relationship judiciously so as to avoid conflict in the future. That's what I hope the two governments can do now. And I think that the conflict is not in anybody's interest.